Salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show. Coming from right here in our quaint little studio. Hope you guys had an awesome weekend. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio by our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
Hello, everybody.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer-Burnett.
Thanks to the viewer who knows I'm now the supplement king.
Yes, a couple of our viewers who came to one of our movie meetups passed along some gifts, like three wise men coming to the manger of verisimilitude to leave gifts.
The manger of verisimilitude.
You like that?
Wow, I need somebody to make some artwork for that.
Keep it up.
Of course, most importantly, guys, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And what is this show? Well, it's just a bunch of guys talking about our favorite things in the world. Movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all that good stuff. And we got a bunch of stuff we're going to talk about. I'm going to say, I'm excited about this week. World Series of Poker is on. Every year, I go and participate in the World Series of Poker. I'm going to be going to play in what's known as the Colossus Tournament.
Whoa.
This weekend.
Wait, isn't that the name of your van?
That is the name of my package, actually. But yes, Colossus is also the name of my van.
What about the computer? This is the voice of Colossus.
What was that?
From Colossus, the Forbin Project from 1970, starring Eric
not
Braeden,
familiar
based on
with
the
it.
novel.
I have to say I don't know that one.
It's one of the great science fiction films of 1970.
But anyway, but the World Series itself is ongoing. It's like 56 different events. Good Canadian girl, Chrissy Foxon, won the $25,000 high roller event on day 4. I think she took home a cool $1.8 million for the win. She made the final table, actually, of the World Series of Poker main event 2 years ago.
Wow.
And she came back and won it this year, so good for her. Anyway,
Are you playing in it?
I'm going to be well, first, I'm going to play in the event known as the Colossus. That happens next weekend. And if I cash in that, then I will, because it's only a $500 buy-in.
Right.
But there's like 8,000 people compete in it. If I cash in that, then I will use the winnings to buy into the main event, because it's $10,000 to buy into the main event.
Wow, dude.
So only if I cash in the Colossus event will I participate in the main event.
Please tell me you're going to see Disclosure Day before that, though.
Yeah, actually, we've already got
that.
our tickets in Las Vegas for Thursday night. Going to go see Disclosure in Vegas on Thursday
I do
night.
too. I've got Thursday IMAX.
Very excited about it,
Very
actually.
excited. I hope humanity has changed after it happens.
I got to go Friday now because I have a cousin who graduated and I have to go to that.
Oh,
Family
F them.
duties.
Come on.
Stupid family, always getting in the way of a good time. Anyway, guys, with that said, we got a number of things we're going to talk about here. So let's get things kicked off here, shall we? We're going to start with this. Shiver me timbers, there's more than one pirate movie out there, because according to Deadline here, how's this for Murderers Row? Hugh Jackman, Ridley Scott, and Jack Thorne, who just recently won an Emmy for writing Adolescence, are going to be making Treasure Island. Now, the way it stands right now, according to the story, is that the producers have put together this package that Ridley Scott will direct Treasure Island, Hugh Jackman will play Long John Silver, and Jack Thorne has written the script, and they're now going to start shopping it around to the various movie studios. Fox, which had a first look deal on it, declined it. They liked it, they want to make it, but they're part of Disney and they don't want to have competing pirate IPs. Understandable. So they're free to go and shop it around, and according to Deadline, they're expecting a lot of bids. A lot of big bids. Now look, I don't think everything that is legacy IP, old books, whatever, I don't think necessarily all of them are good ideas to make in the movies. But I think pirates are kind of like ninjas and dinosaurs.
They are.
People like pirates.
Yes.
Or they love to hate pirates or whatever it is. By the way, X-Men Superfan just gifted another 10
saw that. Where is
John
it?
Campea channel gift memberships. Thank you for that. And you attach Hugh Jackman, and you've got the writer of Adolescence. That's the part that fascinates me the most about this. I'm going to admit I'm lukewarm on the Ridley Scott thing. Look, you guys know my feelings on Ridley Scott. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is iconic. He is legendary. He has given us some of the greatest cinema of all time. But I also think he lost it 15 years ago. I mean, other than The Martian, which was fantastic, I haven't liked a lot of his stuff. I don't think I've liked his last 8 movies. And his new one coming out, was it Dog Stars?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it even looks remotely interesting to me. But hey, I was kind of cooling on Ridley Scott before The Martian came out. Boom! And then he smacked us across the face with The Martian. And I love that movie. So maybe he can do that here. I got to say, I think this is a really neat idea. Adolescence writer writing it. Hugh Jackman playing Long John Silver. This could be a lot of fun. Anyway, Rob, you heard about this. What are you thinking?
Robert Louis Stevenson. I'm a Treasure Island fan since I was a kid. Love Treasure Island. Love this. Dude, if I won the lottery and I won like $1 billion, you know, one of the things I would do is I would go get
Develop a cocaine habit, probably.
No, before that.
Oh, before
I
that.
would go get all the negative for Cutthroat Island and reassemble it into the great epic that we all know it can be.
Dude, I remember going to the theaters for Cutthroat. I was so excited when I saw the movie poster for Cutthroat Island because we really, even at that time, did not have swashbucklers. Like Pirates of the Caribbean hadn't come out, so I had to watch like movies like The Black Swan and old movies like that for pirate movies.
I mean, I used to hang out with Frank Langella on the set of Superman Returns and talk about how there was a much better movie. Frank Langella would sit there and talk your ear off about how Cutthroat Island has a much better cut, but Carolco effed it up. You can't go wrong. You were right, John, and you just made me realize, why not make a movie with ninjas, dinosaurs, and pirates, and apes on horseback with rifles?
You know what? Maybe that's what the new Anne Hathaway, Ewan McGregor movie is. What's the name of that one again?
The End of the Street.
The End of Oak Street or something like that?
Whatever.
Yeah, maybe that's exactly what that movie is. Now, look, I get it. I've seen already some people in the live chat saying, hey, no Ridley Scott bashing here. Look, I'm not trying to bash Ridley Scott again. First ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greats.
Bashing would, yeah.
But I'm just saying, let me run down the last number of Ridley Scott films. Gladiator 2. I was disappointed in. His first Gladiator is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yep.
Gladiator 2 I was disappointed. Napoleon was bad. Looked really good. It was bad. House of Gucci wasn't all that great. I didn't mind it, but
Yeah.
I didn't think it was all that great. I thought The Last Duel was terrible. Then you got to go all the way down to Alien Covenant. That splits a lot of people. Some people really like those things. I did not like Alien Covenant at all. The Martian, then in 2015, awesome. All kinds of awesome. All the credit in the world.
One of the great science fiction movies of the
Exodus
20th
Gods and Kings before that, not very good. The Counselor.
Yes.
I know you like
Yes.
The Counselor.
Genius.
I think it's his worst film, personally.
Fantastic.
Prometheus, which I did not like. Robin Hood that he did with Russell Crowe, which I did not like. And then you get down, Body Lies wasn't great. Now, then you come to 2007's American Gangster. And to me, that was, other than The Martian, which was an outlier, that to me was the last great film in the run of Ridley Scott.
So good.
Oh, American Gangster is so good. Anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Apparently, Ridley Scott, Jack Thorne, the Emmy-winning writer of Adolescence, and Hugh Jackman, wait a minute, did he not play Blackbeard at one point?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he returning to some familiar territory. I think this is an interesting sounding project. And again, maybe this can be Ridley Scott's next Martian. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's jump into this, shall we? Now, you guys know that one of the big hot things out there right now is the movie Obsession. It's, of course, rattled the world. This little horror film that could. I mean, listen, I became enamored with it when I saw the trailer for it, because we were amongst the first people that got to see a trailer for it, and I became enamored with it almost immediately. Now, of course, the big narrative surrounding it right now is that it was a movie that cost under $1 million to make, and has, as of right now, made somewhere in the neighborhood of like $250 million, which, if a Star Wars movie is considered a flop, but this is a movie they made for under $1 million, and it's kind of changed the narrative on a lot of things. However, mo money, mo problems is what my mom always used to say. And now even Obsession has become not insulated from a little bit of controversy surrounding it. There's this story that is out here right now about Sally Choi.
Oh, I seem to have lost it.
Oh, let's try that again. Sally Choi, who was officially titled the art director on Obsession. And she chronicles in not a whiny way. Let me be very clear about that. Not at all in a whiny way at all. Okay. But she chronicles the fact and laments a little bit publicly that, she worked on this movie for $300 a day, roughly.
For 3 weeks.
For 20 days. She says 20 days. And she made a grand total after taxes, $6,700.
Pretty good.
She made, which ain't bad. I mean, if you extrapolate that over a full 30-day month and you consider what she must have been paid pre-taxes, that's probably making over 10 grand a month still. And now she's sitting back and looking at this movie that has made over $250 million. And while she doesn't, again, I want to make sure we're clear about this. She clearly upfront says right in her writings, hey, listen, I knew that was the rate. I agreed to that rate before I started. It's not like they scammed me. We negotiated. I agreed to the salary I was going to get to work on this movie, and I did it. So she's totally upfront about that, okay? Let me be clear. And she doesn't in her writing start whining about, I demand they give me more money. But the implied thing is there, right? That, hey, it sure would be nice if they gave me some more money. As a matter of fact, Jonathan and I were talking about this before the show started today. There were some people who worked on this little indie film who volunteered.
Yep.
Got no money to do this.
Yeah, as soon as I heard 750,000, this crew got paid peanuts or less.
Yeah, peanuts or less indeed. And so it's got a lot of people kind of talking now about whether or not somebody like this movie should be paying more to the people who were involved in doing it. And this is a question that comes up a lot, Rob, actually, when we discuss big movies and you find out what some people made about. I guess this is a below the line person, not one of the actors, not one of the directors and stuff like that. And quite often I find that public sentiment is give them more money, which I'm not against. I'm not against at all. But it also raises a question for me, Rob, about why should somebody like the art director, who, as she was very honest and upfront about, mentioned, hey, I worked for the rate I agreed to work for, which is more than what most people make. Granted, working in the film industry like this is very, feast or famine. Sometimes you got work, sometimes you don't have work. And you got to make the money that you make stretch a little bit further. That's the reality of the film business. But there's this notion out there that, somebody like this should get paid more. And my position on this has always been very unpopular. Very, very unpopular. But I nonetheless, while I'm open to having my mind changed, I still haven't heard a good argument against this. If they made this movie Obsession and it tanked, would that art director have given some of her money back to soften the blow for whoever maxed out their credit cards to make their movie? Somebody maybe loses the second mortgage on their house, or a bigger company takes a substantial loss. Does anybody involved who got paid money, guaranteed money, give any of it back? In other words, did they assume any financial risk in making the movie? And the thing is, no. If this movie tanked and everybody lost their shirts, she still made $6,700 for 20 days of work. And there's always been this thing for me is like the people who risk are the ones who should reap rewards. As a matter of fact, I did a little bit of research on this. Let's take a look at this. As we step inside the Campea classroom, So, oop, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. Statistically, this comes to us from Entertainment Law Resources. Statistically speaking, the reality of independent filmmaking is incredibly bleak. According to film industry data, tracking studies, and distribution analytics, get this, guys, only about 1% to 3% of all independent feature films ever turn a profit for their investors. That means a staggering 97 to 99% of all indie films lose money, or at best barely break even after years of trying to recoup their costs. So that means this year, if you go onto the set and visit the set of 100 indie films being made that somebody had to put up the money to make, on average, 98 of those 100 are going to lose those people money. Maybe all their money. Maybe just a bump in a bigger financier's thing. But a lot of these indie films are not made with the backing of major financial backers. I have people coming to me all the time asking me I don't know why they think I have the money to do this, but I have people coming to me all the time, Rob, asking me if I want to finance their new film.
Okay, I will stop. Geez, you didn't have to make it public.
Yeah, I thought that was private conversation, John. And so that's the reality of making these things. So I've always thought this. If you are a crew member of a movie and you want to stand to benefit in case the movie blows up, well, there's two different things you can do. Let's go over here. Two things you can do, but they both involve you taking a risk. Number one, defer. You remember that movie Once? We were just talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
That won the Oscar for that song, Falling Slowly, right? All that kind of stuff. Famous story about this. The director who made it, who just now made that Nick Jonas,
Power Ballad,
Paul Rudd
which is
movie,
terrific.
Power Ballad, which
Terrific
you
movie.
really liked. He didn't take a director's salary for it. He put a lot of his own money into it. And he asked a bunch of the crew members to work for free on deferred payment, saying, hey, if we do well, you'll get to reap the rewards of that. Not all of them did it, but a bunch of them did. That movie was one of the 1%. And it was made for like $200,000, went on to make $25 million and win an Academy Award. And apparently all those people got rewarded. But they got rewarded because they took a risk. Because they risked, and by the way, stupid risk. Considering 98% of these movies never make their money back. Stupid risk. But if you're a crew member and you want to not just get paid, but you want to stand to reap some of the big rewards if it does do well, the first option you have is to defer. There's a second option you have. Negotiate points. You can say to them, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll do this, and you pay me X salary, and I want 0.25% of any net profits. Here's the trick, though. If you're going to negotiate points, let's say you would have got a $6,000 fee for a month of work. If you negotiate points, the producer is going to want to pay you, just say, $4,000. It's like, okay. You want 0.25% on any net profits. Okay. Then up front, you got to be willing to take less money. So again, whether you are deferring or whether you're negotiating points, you are putting yourself in a situation where you yourself have to take a financial risk. But by putting yourself in a situation where you're taking a financial risk on the project, you stand to reap benefits if it works out. But then again, Rob, as you and I know, who have both made independent film, 98% of these films never make money. So if you are a below the line crew worker, are you going to take the $6,000 Or are you going to take the $4,000, $2,000 less, in the 2% chance that the indie film you're working on might blow up and you might make $20,000? I think I'd probably just take the $6,000. I don't know. That's me.
I would feel it's based on genre and what's hot right now. I would definitely do some calculus in this. If you're saying this is a horror film,
Yeah.
I'm like, I might take that risk. If you're saying this is like a romance, I'm like, just give me the $6,000.
Yeah. And again, to me, it's just the principle of, unless you stand to lose money if the project bombs, why shouldn't just the people who did stand to lose money reap the rewards? And so that's kind of how I see. Now, of course, Rob, this opens another, like a totally separate discussion about how much these people get paid, period, and in general, but that's a completely different discussion devoid of this. And it's important for us to keep in mind that Obsession is a lightning 3 times in a bottle situation. This is a rare thing that ever happened. So I don't know, Rob, what's your take on this whole situation?
Well, I did a whole show on this yesterday and did a real deep dive into all of this. Now, there is a recent movie that did have a profit sharing, and it was Sing Sing, the Coleman Domingo movie.
Yes, yeah.
So Sing Sing was an See, when you make a movie, you form an LLC. Every movie has its own LLC company. And there are the people that are the officers of that company, and how they did the split was everybody was favored nations. Every single person on the movie, the director, Coleman Domingo, all the crew, all got paid the same amount of money. Mm-hmm. And then they had a pool, and the pool was 40% of any return immediately went in to pay out the crew, and 60% went to pay out the investors. And when the investors got 120% of their money back, so they got their 100% investment plus 20%, then it switched to a 50-50 pool where the investors were put in the pool and all the crew members were put in the pool, and they split the money.
That's pretty lucrative.
It was pretty good. That movie cost $2 million to make, and it returned worldwide about $5.5 million. So you can look at, not many people got rich. Very interesting way to do it.
Yeah.
But like you pointed out, in the last 30 years, in terms of horror films, you had Blair Witch, you had Paranormal Activity, and you had Obsession. That's it. I thought Obsession was going to be a biopic of the Human League. Boy, was I surprised. But so I go in.
That's a deep cut, Rob.
There you go.
That's a deep cut.
But when you look at this, this girl talked about in her post that she also wanted to try and flip this movie and go union. When I heard that, I lost sympathy for her. I am a huge fan of union Hollywood productions, but a $750,000 movie that was made, Curry Barker will tell you that he was going to make this, probably put it up on YouTube because of his first movie. And the idea was that there's a lot of people that think they're going to get rich quick, and that I think, and this was 2 years ago, everybody knows you have to think about, like you pointed out, John, the 3 times it's happened, but you also have to think about how this business works. Now, the one great thing about movie making is when you work on
let me interrupt, just because I think it's important for everybody to get what you're saying here. To give you the context of this, in her writings, this art director regrets that they didn't flip the production of Obsession. Now, what is flipping a production? Let's go back over to the classroom for a second here. If you read that, where she's saying, oh man, I kind of wish we had flipped the production, but they talked me out of it. Okay, flipping the production is when the crew votes to flip a non-union production into a union production. Now, the consequences of that is that if you turn a non-union production into a union production, well, all of a sudden there are a whole lot more sets of rules and a whole lot more money that needs to be spent. Now, the 2 of the 3 projects I have made have been distinctly labeled as non-union productions because I couldn't afford to do it by union measures, right? One of them I did do by union measures. My movie, The Anniversary, I did by union scale, but the budget was so low it fell under their micro budget thing. So not small budget, but micro budget thing. And so it was fine. It worked. So, but the problem is, if they do that, there have been examples of crews that have decided to flip a production from a non-union thing halfway through production into a union production, and the films have just shut down.
This would have.
Now, the folks over at The Wrap wrote this about it. If you take a look at this, they said, if a movie, this was written in The Wrap a while ago, if a movie was budgeted so tightly that it cannot absorb union rates and benefits, producers may suspend or abandon the project rather than continue under a union contract. Industry guides specifically note that some productions choose to shut down and regroup when they cannot meet the new labor requirements. Now, that doesn't happen most of the time. Like, a lot of the times they adapt to the new union rules. Some of the times they just renegotiate. Some of the times they just replace a bunch of the crew. And some of the times they just shut the whole production down. And so sorry, Rob, I just thought it was important to give that context so people understand what
incredibly
you're talking about.
important. But you know what? This girl, because I read all of her statements, she didn't talk about her production designer. That's essentially the boss on her movie. She didn't talk about any of her other crew members.
She didn't blame anybody.
No, but she just talked about herself. And I'm like, well, what about the rest of the crew? You know, the other crew that contributes. I don't mean to denigrate this, but she's the art director that works for a production designer. Never mentioned the production designer. Never mentioned, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. My whole problem with this kind of thinking is it's Monday morning. You know, I called my friend up after I read this story and I go, you know, dude, remember in 2009 when you wanted me to buy Bitcoin and it was like 0.000025 a coin? I think you should give me that deal again. I'd really like to have that Bitcoin deal you offered me back in 2009. You know what he said? No. And I just think that the idea is, if you agree to work on a project, it's like what Bob Sugar said in The Great Jerry Maguire. It ain't show friends, it's show business. And you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And she agreed to do a job, probably signed a contract for a certain fee. And look, if you want to bet on that, or you want to have a deal, you want to talk to the producers and say, look, I'd like to, like you pointed out, I'd rather get paid $4,000 for a percentage point. Great. You do that up front. You don't get to retroactively decide to change things when a movie is that 1 or 2% that becomes wildly successful. What you should be looking to do is build a career in the business. If you work for a movie that suddenly has this kind of success, suddenly your value as a crew member exponentially increases. And then suddenly not only does your value exponentially increase, but so does every one of your crew members. And if you had a great experience working with somebody, Curry Barker he has already made his second film. Now, I'm wondering, did he use the same art department? Does he have the same production designer? Did she get to work on that second movie and make a little bit more money? With obviously it had more things going on in it. So I don't know if she did or not, but already he's on a meteoric rise that you could have been hitched to that rocket. And then that's how careers are built. It was her first feature.
Yeah, by the way, I do want to point out that after I read through all of the stuff she wrote, and to me, the tone of it was more less whining.
Yeah, it wasn't hostile.
Yeah, no. It wasn't hostile. It was more in line of, I really think we need to look at the way we do this. I want to give full credit. I want to give full credit. She never threw anybody on the bus. No. She never called anybody out specifically. She completely upfront said, hey, this is what I negotiated when I did. I just think we need to look at this whole situation. But again, I just don't know that other than doing one of those two, doing something that puts you in a position of financial risk as well, deferring payment or negotiating points for a lesser salary. Yeah. I don't know that we even should have a way where it's like, hey, you get all your money no matter what. And if the film bankrupts people, you get to keep all your money. But if the film does well, you get to get extra. I just don't know that without you taking financial risk, there's a way to do that.
Well, that's the easiest way to deal with this issue is to have every one of these people try and go out and finance their own independent movie and make one. Because that's the only way people are going to understand that it's a lot easier said than done. And I think the Sing Sing model, there's a great article, I linked it in the description of my own show I did yesterday, about how the structure of Sing Sing was built and how they were able to pay everybody off. Really interesting. And I don't remember, it was a website I'd never read before, but it's really worth reading.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. Even the darling obsession can't escape all the controversy. What do you think about this? It is a big issue about Should people who work on a movie stand to profit more from the movie if in the very rare, especially in indie films, in the very rare case where it actually is profitable? I don't know. What do you think a solution is? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Let's go. It's happened. 2026 has now got its first $1 billion film of the year, and it is one that we kind of expected it would be, as Deadline is now reporting that the Super Mario Galaxy movie has now finally, just barely, crawled over that $1 billion mark.
These indie films, man, it's hard to get to that billion.
Yeah, these little indie films has finally gotten across that line. The folks at Deadline write the following: Illumination, Nintendo, and Universal Super Mario Galaxy movie is now officially the first movie to cross $1 billion at the 2026 box office, the pick doing so in its 10th weekend of release. With the latest hit, the Super Mario franchise now crosses $2 billion, becoming the number 9 biggest animated franchise worldwide. And Chris, I always mispronounce his last name, Meledandri, hope that's right, the guy from Illumination, third franchise in the top 10. Actually, let's take a, this is interesting. When I heard that Super Mario at $2 billion is only the 9th. At number 10 is the Madagascar franchise at $2.2 billion. Super Mario is now at $2.3 billion with 2 films. Kung Fu Panda sits at $2.37 billion with 4 films. Inside Out sits at $2.56 billion with just 2 films. Frozen sits at $2.73 billion with 2 films. Zootopia sits at $2.89 billion with 2 films. Ice Age, I don't understand this, $3.22 billion with 5 films. Shrek,
I don't even know that's possible. Okay, go on.
yeah, or Toy Story at $3.28 billion. Shrek at $3.98 billion with 6 films, and Despicable Me, which includes Minions, at $5.64 billion, and is also a Illumination project as well. You know, I said for a long time, Mario Brothers 2 will not make the same amount of money as the first Mario. It could get to $1 billion, but it won't be the $1.3 billion. And I'm happy to see that it has crawled over that $1 billion mark. I was starting to doubt in the last month or so, I was starting to doubt it would get to the $1 billion mark. I'm glad to see it's gotten there. So the seal's been broken. The first $1 billion film hath cometh.
Bruh.
Now it's going to raise the question about what's going to be number 2. So Rob, anyway, how big of a deal is this for the Mario franchise, for this movie specifically, for the industry as a whole? What's your takeaway from this?
Well, first of all, look, I'm always happy when great success is achieved.
I agree, 100%.
Because it's helpful for the whole industry. This film, I just wish, now to be fair, I have not seen this movie. I liked the first Mario Brothers movie. I have not seen this movie. I know a lot of people didn't like it as much, but I'm happy it made enough people happy in the world that it made $1 billion. That says something. That means, in my mind, that's a win all the way around. But you know what? I do think that Illumination is a good company, and I like what they do, although I really can't stand their Minions little, he's on the computer, and every time I go see
those little interstitials in the theaters now? Yeah, I hate those.
Stop. But you know what? I'm glad they're successful. So I'm glad everybody, I'm sure that they're fast tracking. Are we going to get a Smash Brothers movie? I kind of want to see that. So maybe we're closer to getting one of those. I don't know.
Remember, they made a statement saying they're not looking at doing a Smash Brothers
movie. I know, but who doesn't want to see a Super Smash Brothers movie?
I don't.
Come on. Come on.
I'm not interested.
But anyway, look, I think it's great. And will I get a Star Fox movie? Maybe. I wouldn't mind. But
yeah, again, it still poses the same problem. First of all, I didn't like this one as much as I liked the first one. I didn't love the first one, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was charming and fun. I thought this one was not terrible, but just not as good. But again, I love seeing success in the movie industry, even if it's for a movie that I didn't particularly love.
100%.
But again, didn't hate it. But they still have the same problem, right? I don't think Firefox. I don't.
Star Fox.
I keep on wanting to say Firefox, the old Clint Eastwood movie.
Think Russian, John.
You must think in Russian. Not many people know that reference. But I honestly don't think Star Fox makes any money. I really don't. By the way, Corey sends in 5 gift memberships. Thank you, Corey. Appreciate that, man.
I just love the game, man.
I just don't think like Mario, Nintendo doesn't have any other Marios. It's Mario. To a lesser degree, Link and Zelda, and they're making a live action movie of that, which by the way, some whispers, not official, that we might get our first Zelda teaser at the upcoming Nintendo event.
Ooh.
I don't know if they actually are or not, but there's just some little whispers about that. It would be interesting to see.
That'd be dope.
Again, I just don't know that they have any other IPs because initially, remember we had this discussion when the first Mario Brothers movie came out. That the first Mario Brothers made $1 billion, and all of a sudden everybody's like, well, now Nintendo's got to make movies of all these characters. And it's like, but do you actually think they're going to have Mario's success? There is only one Mario.
Even Mario isn't having that.
Yeah,
upward
even
trajectory.
Mario is having lesser success. And I guarantee you, when they do make Mario 3, it won't make $1 billion. It'll make a lot of money. It will also, but it'll make less than this one did. So I don't know, Rob. Like, do you think that this making $1 billion for this film, which I think is fantastic, do you think that means or does not mean that Nintendo should really be looking at cranking out their other projects? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it's still, look, here's my feeling. Everybody thinks, oh, we got to, you have to have a good project. You know, like you said, Mario is kind of a singular, like I could imagine them doing an F1 movie with Mario Kart. Something like that. I mean, if somebody said they were going to come out with some Mario Kart racing movie, it's Days of Thunder, you know, meets F1 but with Mario, I'd be like, I could see that. Like, I would watch that movie. Put it in with the little pod racing action. I would watch that movie. But you can't just say, well, no franchise, no one makes money just because the name of the franchise. You still have to make something that's a quality product. And I think it's hard. I think this movie, from what I understand, it's hard to replicate that kind of success because, you know, is there a lot of deep lore in Donkey Kong? Maybe. But I don't know if it's enough to sustain, to think that you're going to come up with another $1 billion movie. No franchise is impervious to that thinking. Everyone thinks, well, just make another. But you still have to have a good movie. You still have to have a good story, great characters, make it unique. I do think that there's something in a Super Mario Kart movie that they could come up with. I don't know what that is.
Sure, but that's still Mario.
Yeah, it's still Mario.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree. I think you can do a Mario Kart movie. 100% I think you can.
But yeah, Super Smash Brothers, Star Fox.
By the way, have you been to the Super Nintendo land at Universal Studios?
I never have.
Oh my God, dude. When you go in, they have a full Mario Kart like experience that you go through. Like it's awesome. It's so much fun. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The new Mario Brothers Galaxy movie has become the first film of the year to cross the $1 billion mark. Next up, probably Spider-Man. So anyway, we'll see. I didn't love the film myself, but I'm super thrilled for its success. What do you guys think about that? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down. Let's move on to this. From box office glory to box office blues. The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is a movie I don't mind, but I certainly did not like all that much. Has its moments. I had to see it 5 times. Out on the movie meetup tour.
Depressing.
Probably wouldn't have chosen to see it 5 times, yet that's where we were. It certainly had its moments. There are parts of the movie I really do very much enjoy. Overall, still a movie I don't think they ever should have made. But, you know, we have asked the question for months. Like, why do you think an extension of a TV show that had a bad last season is going to do well as your first movie back on the big screen in 7 years if you're Star Wars? And it had an okay opening, but not great. Then it took nearly a 70% drop in its second weekend. And now the unthinkable. After its third weekend, as you can see from this chart, Star Wars and The Mandalorian, or Mandalorian and Grogu, has dropped out of the top 5 in just its third weekend.
And how many is that for Obsession then? Is that its 4th?
I cannot remember, and I can't get over this.
I'll check it. You can go. I'll check it.
Yeah, so let's see. Oh, yes, 4th weekend.
Wow.
4th weekend.
That's at 25 mil.
Let me say this again. A Star Wars movie has dropped out of the top 5 in just its third weekend. And the bad news continues. Right now, the movie has made worldwide, after 3 weeks, $293 million. It is trailing about $100 million behind Solo, a Star Wars story, which became the poster child of Star Wars failure. The first Star Wars film ever to be a financial loss. Granted, they had to spend a lot of extra money in it because they had to go back and practically reshoot the whole movie. Still, that movie made about a Black Adam. Made just a hair under $400 million. Maybe you can get the exact numbers on that, Jonathan,
Sure.
but I think it was just like 380, 390, something like that. At this point right now,
392.9.
392. So it's $100 million ahead of The Mandalorian and Grogu. I'll tell you right now, the movie just made $10 million this weekend, and it's falling like a rock. This movie's not going to catch Solo. It is going to be, it was the lowest opening of any Star Wars movie in the Star Wars era. It is going to end up being the lowest grossing movie in the Star Wars era.
You mean Disney era?
Sorry, yes, of the Disney era. Thank you. Lowest grossing Star Wars movie of the Disney era. That is not good. How bad can be debated, but it's not good. This is a movie that needs to flirt. And they managed to make it pretty cheaply. They made it for about $160 million. After you figure in the marketing and all that kind of stuff, it needs to come in around $400 million to break even. Guys, it's not going to break even. This is going to be the next movie to take a financial loss. And look, again, it comes back to why the hell did they think they were going to get anything other than this? You put on the big screen just an extension of a TV show that not everybody watched, coming off of your worst season, and you haven't had a movie on the big screen in 7 years to have any kind of big screen momentum. Why did you think it would be any different? Now, did I think it would be this low? No. I mean, to be fair, I thought it would be higher than this, but I knew it would be low. And again, to drop out of the top 5, and not just drop out of the top 5, but look what's ahead of it. The Amazing Digital Circus made $11 million.
Mm-hmm.
Obsessions. I mean, we can talk all we want.
And look at the theater numbers compared to The Mandalorian.
Yeah, less theater numbers. Backrooms. We're going to talk about Masters of the Universe in a minute, but we'll stick on Star Wars and Mandalorian and Grogu here. This isn't a good sign. Now, Rob, I do want to say this, though. I want to say this. I already have seen the narrative out there that, Rob, this is it. Star Wars is done.
Yeah.
Because you had this movie come out and it flopped. We warned you it would. A lot of you guys did too. And it flopped, that means Star Wars is done. I do want to remind people that history is a good teacher. Prior to Star Wars, Mandalorian, and Grogu, there was a little film called Solo, a Star Wars story that made under $400 million and became the first Star Wars movie to lose money. And the narrative of that time is, well, that's it. Everybody's lost interest in Star Wars. Except another Star Wars movie came out after that and made over $1 billion. Yes, this one fell on its face, but that does not mean that the next one can't make $1 billion because we've already seen it happen. I'm not saying Star Wars Starfighter will be $1 billion film. I'm just saying, don't go thinking that just because this one did terribly, that means there's no interest anymore in Star Wars movies. We've already seen this happen before. We've already seen that, yes, it can still do well. But Rob, you and I both, we've kind of questioned the wisdom behind making this into a movie. And we're kind of seeing it coming home to roost right now. Anyway, you see this, it's dropped out of the top 5 in just third week. What do you think about this?
Well, one, it makes me sad. I'm sad to see the state of affairs where Star Wars is right now. But John, I woke up in a cold sweat thinking one thing. I was thinking about the Mandalorian and Grogu, and I was asking myself, okay, in Empire Strikes Back, when we first see AT-ATs, they are being deployed by an Imperial Starfleet against the Rebel Alliance on Hoth. That's the first time we see him. Amazing. Giant battle. The Imperials rout the rebels. Even their ion cannon can't save him. Where are the AT-ATs going at the beginning of The Mandalorian and Grogu? What are they doing on that planet? Are they going somewhere? Are they attacking a base? Like, what are they doing? Is there Star Destroyers supporting the deployment of these? And to me, that's when I realized this is the problem with modern Star Wars. It's not really about anything. I mean, you could sit there and go, yeah, the Mandalorian and Grogu have been hired to go after these Imperial remnants. They don't know what even that means. You've got random AT-ATs driving somewhere, not to go rout the rebels, not to go fight the new rebellion or new republic. What are they doing? They're just decided, let's have a scene with AT-ATs at the beginning where the Mandalorian fights the Imperials.
Well, again, my question is, why didn't the guy just get in the ship and fly away in the first place?
Well,
which was his ultimate getaway plan.
I don't mean to be flippant, but inherently, Star Wars is no longer about anything. It's just people. In The Mandalorian and Grogu, you're just watching somebody.
I wouldn't paint with that broad of a brush. We just had Skeleton Crew. We just had Andor.
I'm just saying, but I'm saying on the big screen.
On the big screen,
certainly the Rise of Skywalker, I still don't know what that movie is about. I mean, I understand what it wanted to be about, but the thing is, Star Wars needs to figure out what it is at the corporate level and decide what stories does it want to tell. Because Andor was a derivation of the original Star Wars. So was Rogue One, where you're extrapolating, you're in the midst of a battle between the rebellion and the republic. And it was interesting. You're going back and you're looking into that core tenet of Star Wars. And I think that's what they need to figure out. Maybe Starfighter is about that. Maybe Starfighter is dealing with more about where the universe is. What does it mean to live in this universe? Who are you? Ryan Gosling's probably going to be a character like a Luke character that he's going to have to figure out who he is in this universe. And that's what I think. And Star Wars means something to people. We have a baby Yoda that is living in the shadow of one of the great pop culture philosophers of the 20th century, Yoda himself. Look at me, judge me by my size, do you?
And well, you should not.
You should not, because my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. What's in there? Only what you take with you. We are still thinking about what Yoda has taught us since 1980. What has Baby Yoda taught us?
Oh, a baby stroller can go 50 miles an hour if you hit the right button.
But this is the problem. Star Wars went from having great pop culture resonance to just, we're hoping it means something, anything. And until Star Wars figures out what it is, I just don't think people are going to turn out for it because it is not offering them anything.
I'm going to disagree with you there. Starfighter is going to be an event.
I hope so.
It will. Starfighter will be an event.
I hope so.
Again, I'm not going to...
I think it has the potential.
Yeah. I'm not going to defer on to Star Wars in general for what the specific errors in judgment were with Mandalorian. Right. Again, this should never have been made into a movie. It never should have been.
Totally agree.
We've been saying that forever, right? Like, I think when they first announced it, I was kind of optimistic, but then I, within weeks, I was thinking about it, I was like, this makes no sense. Why would you take a television show that ended badly with I love The Mandalorian. I do, but the third season was terrible. Had its moments, but overall it was quite bad. And why would you now take that when you haven't had a movie on the screen in 7 years? And I think what we're seeing with the results of Star Wars, Mandalorian and Grogu, is there some overall issues with Star Wars as a brand? Sure. But do I think the lion's share of it has to do with specific Mandalorian issues and the whole idea of taking a television show and trying to put it on the movie? But I'm telling you this, I 100% believe. Again, I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be $1 billion film. Okay, hold your horses. But I believe that when Star Wars Starfighter is coming out, we are going to feel that true event energy going into it, like in Unto the event of that we felt kind of going into Project Hail Mary, or we have going into the Odyssey, or we have going to whatever. It's going to feel like an event. And I think when they start marketing this thing and it's going to be something new and fresh and epic, you've got the right director, you got the right screenplay, you got an incredible cast.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get it. But The other thing The Mandalorian does, and this may be fair or unfair, and you can hate this all you want if you wish, but Dave Filoni produced and wrote this movie. It's not a great movie. And I keep reading these reports that he didn't like Andor. What the hell is wrong with you? I remember me and Christian Harloff were actually talking in New York when we did the New York meetup, and we were just going on like, I just don't know, because Harloff's kind of come around to thinking, because Harloff was very, very, very pro Dave Filoni taking over Lucasfilm. And I've warmed to the idea of Dave Filoni taking over because he's had some years of experience as an executive now. But I'm telling you what, man, I am nervous about the future of Star Wars if Dave Filoni's in charge. And I'm just hoping he can learn some lessons. But I think Starfighter is going to be maybe the last event Star Wars movie, but I think it will. I think it will.
I'm curious. I'm curious how the new CEO reacts to this and moves forward.
Oh, the new Disney CEO.
Because we have an idea of how Bob Iger would have. I'm curious. He's coming from a theme park, space.
Well, remember, Bob Iger let Kathleen Kennedy pick her own successor. Mm-hmm. And Dave Filoni is her favorite stepson, right? Everybody knows this. He's the favorite child. So Kathleen Kennedy picked Dave Filoni. But that was under Kathleen Kennedy and that was under Bob Iger.
Right.
A lot of times in sports, and I know people get a little upset when I bring on these sports analogies, but a lot of times in sports, when a new GM comes into a team, he cleans house and wants to put his own people in. And I think for now, I honestly think Filoni's going to be on a very short leash with this new CEO. They're not going to get rid of Dave Filoni over one movie.
No way.
That would be foolish. Even I would say, no. You give Dave Filoni more of a chance to really kind of put his own thumbprint on this and let's see what happens. But I don't think he's going to be given 5 years. I think, unless Dave Filoni figures out a way to kind of turn things around here, I think we could be looking at a new Lucasfilm president in 3 years. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The Mandalorian and Grogu has dropped out of the top 5 in just 3 weekends, and right now is on pace to be the lowest grossing Star Wars film of the entire Disney era. What larger lessons are there to take away from this? What glimmers of hope are there in there? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Oh, you know what? No, we do have a few more things to talk about, including, look at this. We were talking about this last week. California and New York are now teaming up to file a lawsuit to stop the Paramount Warner Brothers merger. This could be big. We're going to talk about that, and we got to talk about the unfortunate results of Masters of the Universe that had its opening weekend at the box office this week. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Hims. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, Hims. One of the hardest things about trying to lose weight is just figuring out what actually works, because we've seen them all. There are a million trends, diets, and gimmicks out there, and honestly, it can get overwhelming. And that's why weight loss by Hims really stands out. Hims now offers access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medications, including the Wegovy pill at its lowest price ever, and the Wegovy pen. With Wegovy at Hims, lose up to 20% or more of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite and eat less, so success is within reach. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever and only GLP-1 available in a pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. And the process is extremely convenient. Everything happens online. You connect with a licensed provider who determines if treatment is right for you, and if prescribed, your medication gets delivered right to your door. No insurance necessary. Ready to reach your goals? Visit hims.com/Campea to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's HIMS.com/Campea. hims.com/Campea. Based on advertised cash price for 30-day supply of medication only. Membership required, fee not included, and billed separately. Weight loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, visit hims.com. And thank you to our friends at Hims for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on and talk about this, shall we? If you guys remember, last week we talked about the fact that the Attorney General of California was getting close, he said, to making a decision about whether or not to file a lawsuit to stop the merger of Paramount and Warner Brothers. And at that time, we went through the various different laws that they could apply to the situation in order to try to litigate this and get the merger stopped. Now, one of the things we talked about that is if they did do this, they might have to actually partner up with one or a few other states because the litigation would be big and it would be expensive, and to get another state or several other states involved would be beneficial to them. And take a look at this. This new report has just come out, exclusive. U.S. states preparing a lawsuit to block Paramount acquisition of Warner Brothers, sources say, and it's California and New York. According to this story, California and New York are now teaming up to try to put a stop to this thing. This is what they wrote. California, New York, and other U.S. states are preparing a lawsuit to block Paramount Skydance's $110 billion acquisition of Warner Brothers. Sources familiar with the matter told Reuters on Friday. The lawsuit is expected to be filed in the coming weeks. The sources said it was not immediately clear which other states would join the lawsuit, which would mark the boldest move yet by the states in their efforts to be at the forefront of U.S. antitrust enforcement. All right. This is a major thing. Now, the two main principles that they're going to go in front of a court and try to argue, and again, last week we talked about the specific laws, but generally in principle, they're going to try to be stopping a monopoly and a monopsony. The monopoly is something we all understand, right? It's when only a few people can, very limited number of sources can provide a service or a product, which gives the public less choice. That is a major thing in antitrust and a major thing that they'll be going after. But they're also going to be going after them on the grounds of monopoly, which we talked about last week as the opposite, which is you have a bunch of product providers, but very few buyers. And right now the studios exist as people who can hire unique talent and hire production companies and hire designers and hire whatever. And their argument is going to be by Warner Brothers taking over, or Paramount taking over Warner Brothers and consolidating in one company, there are now even fewer purchasers of that talent and services provided by people in the industry. So they're going to go at it from both sides. The fact that it limits the amount of services being offered and the fact that it's going to limit the amount of buyers of particular services. And that's going to be their approach. And look, there is absolutely no way to guess how this is going to go. But states' attorneys generals have the authority to take things up in federal court where they can block it and take it into state court where it can be blocked. One of the things we talked about last week is, I'm sure some of you are kind of wondering out loud right now, is, oh, wait a minute. Disney was allowed to take over Fox. Yeah, and there was some pushback on that. So why is this situation any different? The situation is different because Disney already took over Fox. There's even fewer players in the game now than when Disney took over Fox. And now the situation is even more precarious. But here's where it gets really interesting for Paramount, Rob. This is where it could get expensive. Because in their purchase deal, Paramount, in their assurances to the shareholders, oh, no, we're going to be able to close this, don't worry. They have a provision that if they don't close this deal by October, they got to start paying out the shareholders in penalty fees to the tune of $6.9 million a month. $6.9 million a month. And if this lawsuit proceeds, one of the first things that will probably happen, not absolutely, but probably, is some judge is going to implement an injunction saying, hey, Paramount Warner Brothers, you can't complete your deal. You might be able to complete your deal later, but until this legal proceeding is done, you cannot complete your deal. The legal procedure could take months and months and months and months and months, or very quickly. I mean, who knows? But this presents a problem for these guys. And you want to know something? I'm not saying this is going to happen. Okay. Let me be clear. I am not saying this is going to happen. But oh my God, the folks at Netflix might look like geniuses, because imagine this. Netflix enters into a deal with Warner Brothers to buy them. Warner Brothers puts up a $2.2 billion guarantee that the deal will go through. Paramount comes in and offered a better deal, but Paramount then had to write a check for $2.2 billion to Netflix for the breakup fee. Paramount had to pay Netflix $2.2 billion for nothing. So there's Ted Sarandos and the folks at Netflix holding this $2.2 billion check. Now, keep that little picture in your mind. Let's say this merger gets blocked. Not saying it will, but let's say it does. Let's say these states suing to stop this thing, and they delay the deal for months and months and months, costing Paramount more and more and more money. And at some point, it just looks like the deal's not going to go through. Okay. Netflix gets to keep the $2.2 billion. And then guess who gets to come in and buy Warner Brothers?
This guy.
This guy.
He's like, I told you this was mine.
That dude with the pointy finger. He's going to have a $2.2 billion check and probably a cheaper purchase price than what they were going to buy it for later. I'm speculating. I'm forecasting. That may not happen at all. I'm just saying.
I definitely thought the long game might go that way, though. He seemed a little too happy about it falling apart.
He seemed very okay.
Yeah.
With that, oh, okay, cool. I'll just take a free $2.2 billion, not million, billion. And we're probably going to still get to come in a year or two and still buy it with your money. Thank you very much. Now, again, Rob, there's a lot of things that have to happen here.
Sure.
Right? But this is a significant development in all this. And it's not just some small, it's California and it's New York. And probably from the sounds of this report, some other states are going to join in this lawsuit. Can they convince a judge? If they do, well, then it'll get appealed. Does it hold up in the appeal? If it doesn't, well, then maybe it goes on to the Supreme Court. And then what happens with the Supreme Court, where a bunch of the judges are already in Trump's pocket. And of course, Trump is in the Ellison's pocket. So, I mean, who knows? Who knows? There's a lot of different ways this could go. But it looks like at very minimum, it's going to be delayed. So again, I'm not sitting here telling you this whole thing's going to work, but it's interesting that it looks like the state, this is Rob right now, the most significant threat to come up that poses a risk to this potential deal. Anyway, you saw the report. What's standing out to you right now?
Well, I mean, look, obviously they knew this was going to happen. They knew there was going to be some kind of pushback of some kind, that there was going to be some kind of regulatory hearings and all of this. And I would have thought that knowing that they can't finance this without foreign money, that they were going to start to run into problems. It seems to me like I don't necessarily think this was a good idea in the first place. I've never liked this idea. And clearly, I guess, John, I guess I expected pushback, and we're getting it. I didn't think that New York and California would team up in a way to stop this, which is very interesting. Both production hubs, New York is also a big production hub, so is LA. And I just find that the Paramount deal always, once I knew how much money they had to get from foreign investment to make this happen, I was like, I don't know if this is such a great idea. So I don't know enough. I am no business whiz at all. So I can't speak eloquently like you can about how the business works. I just don't know enough about this and the legalities of it. You have a legal background. I don't. So I just don't know. But it seems to me like it wouldn't surprise me if this doesn't happen now.
It's going to be interesting. Now look, some people have posed the question to me, if we're worried about conglomeration and like mergers and stuff like that, why are you more okay with the Netflix taking over Warner Brothers than with Paramount taking over Warner Brothers? It's because of this. If Paramount and Warner Brothers merge, you are taking one of the major theatrical players off the market. You literally are losing one. Were Netflix to buy Warner Brothers, you are bringing a company into the theatrical business. Remember, Netflix is not a movie theater company. They're not a movie making company. They do not produce movies to go into theaters. They're about to have a couple, but I mean, generally speaking, they're a television streaming company. If they took over Warner Brothers, which I'm not for, by the way, I would rather Warner Brothers stay an independent company. I'm just saying, I have less problems with Netflix getting it because instead of taking one of the players off the board, it brings a new significant player into the game.
Yeah. They're basically a massive investor in an existing studio. They're not wiping the slate clean. They're not laying off 40,000 people. As a matter of fact, they just purchased those studios in Hollywood. That would just expand their studio space in Los Angeles.
Yeah, so it can actually be an expanding thing for the industry as a whole. Again, I would rather Warner Brothers stay independent, just be very clear. But that's one of the main reasons I have. There's other reasons too, but that's one of the main reasons I have fewer concerns about Netflix maybe buying Warner Brothers versus a Paramount. Or maybe after this whole mess, nobody buys it. Maybe Paramount gets stopped from purchasing it, and maybe Netflix just goes, nah, we're good with our $2 billion, thanks. And just stays out of it, and Warner Brothers stays independent, which honestly to me would be the best scenario. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this all transpires over the next little while. We'll keep our eyes on it with great interest. All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? California and New York, and apparently some other states that haven't been named yet as well, are going to be combining forces like Voltron and going after the merger of Paramount and Warner Brothers. Maybe it'll make progress. Maybe it won't. Maybe a year from now, we're looking at the done deal. Maybe a year from now, the deal's falling apart. Who knows? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? He-Man, Master of the Universe. Open in theaters. I didn't love it. I'm going to be honest with you. It's certainly, now I know you guys liked it better than I did.
I enjoyed it.
There are certainly some moments in it I quite enjoyed. There are a couple of moments and a couple of things about it that I thought were quite good. But overall, I just felt it was a little too cringy in too many parts for me to, I didn't hate it, but didn't love it either. But, we hope that it does well. Now, I always expressed some concern that, is there an audience for He-Man today? I just don't know that there was. There have been some criticisms about the marketing campaign. I thought the last trailer they put out was clearly the best one they did, and they should have led off with it, but it is what it is. But now as people in their headlines are writing, like according to this one in Yahoo Entertainment, writing Masters of the Universe's box office struggles to justify its budget. Masters of the Universe cost somewhere around $170 million to $200 million to make. This movie needs to make somewhere in the $425 million range to break even. The movie had an opening weekend of $29 million. Worldwide, it's made $54 million. I know it's early, but we can call it now. Masters of the Universe is an enormous flop. Which is not, to me, it's like Mario Brothers. I'm so happy that it's made $1 billion, even though I don't love it, but I'm super thrilled. I wanted to see Masters of the Universe succeed, especially for the director who I adore, Travis Knight. I think he's great. Can't wait to see his new one that he's got coming out with Leica. But there's no other way to paint this. This is a tremendous flop. This thing is going to lose a lot of money. And it's unfortunate, but not surprising. I didn't think it was going to do great. I thought it would do better than this. But it hasn't done great. And I think when you step back, yes, we can look at the marketing campaign. Yes, it can be, Idris Elba, sure. But I mean, you cast the main guy as an unknown, and that's fine. That can still work. But to me, there was a bigger issue. Who cares about He-Man anymore? We talk about Mario Brothers, right? And you can say, well, Mario Brothers has been around since the time of He-Man. Yeah. But literally, there have been 70,000 different Mario things. Literally, for every generation, there's been new Mario stuff that people have enjoyed and loved every step along the way. People in 1990 were playing a very different Mario game than the people in 1999. Or 2005 or 2015 or 2020, where there was Mario Kart or Luigi's Mansion or whatever. Like it's always been multi-generational, a place with huge popularity spanning decades. He-Man was a cartoon in the 1980s.
Early 80s too.
Early 80s. Now you can say, no, John, wait, there have been other He-Man stuff, never with any degree of popularity.
Yeah, like Netflix,
none with any degree
Cartoon
of pop
Network.
cultural footprint or popularity. None. Even the Kevin Smith one didn't really. I'm not commenting on its quality. I'm just saying it didn't make any impact whatsoever. It was a throwback to an old animated show that doesn't have a lot of transference to modern culture. Now, that didn't mean the movie couldn't be great and that it couldn't have succeeded. But I just think that was a huge headwind against it that it clearly was not able to overcome. I was hoping it would, but it just really wasn't. And again, to me, the movie not being all that good isn't going to help it much in its second weekend. And I'm predicting
16?
a Mandalorian type drop for weekend number 2. I'm predicting like 65% or bigger weekend number 2 drop. Which
that's a
sucks.
big drop off 29.
Yeah, especially with so few people seeing it week 1.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rob, you saw Masters of the Universe. You liked it more than I did. When you're looking at these results that we have here, what are standing out to you in your head as like what we can point the finger out as why did this happen? What's the postmortem on this?
Well, I think your idea about, He-Man not translating to the modern. See, here's the thing I thought the people that Travis Knight and as I talk about Guy Dice's production design, the look of this movie, the actors in the movie, everybody who made this movie understood the assignment. I think that they succeeded in doing exactly what they tried to do, which was honor the early 80s show. But that, like you said, there's no translation to the modern age. I look back at a show, I'll tell you, go with me on this. I think you'll know what I mean. The original Battlestar Galactica in the 1970s was clearly a ripoff of Star Wars. They were trying to cash in.
The creators admitted
there was a lawsuit and they lost.
Yeah.
If you look at what the Battlestar Galactica series did of the early 2000s, it took the core concept and reinvented its tone. And it had all the elements that the original had, but it made it far more adult. It really turned it into something existential that spoke to a post 9/11 world. And it was a huge success. This He-Man exists in a space where it didn't go anywhere from its initial conceit. What they made has, and I have to say I enjoyed it. What they made has no place in the modern world. Where does it exist? In our very ironic postmodern meme culture. There was no place for it. It's almost like it was this beautiful creative endeavor that lives in a cul-de-sac that doesn't belong in the modern age. So there's no audiences to go see it other than the people that are nostalgic for what He-Man was in the early 80s. And let's face it, what He-Man was in the early 80s wasn't exactly great.
It's funny. when we came out of here, and my wife Ann liked the movie a little bit more than I did too. And she'd mentioned she'd never watched any of the old He-Man things. So the other night I was on YouTube and I noticed, oh, there's a full episode of He-Man. I came across, so like, here's a little bit of it. Oh, did it come across as cheesy? But to your point, this is one of the most damning things, not only for the movie, but its potential future. Your point about how really the only people interested in these are the people who had kind of nostalgia for it, right? Here's the number. Do you know what percentage of the audience that went to see Masters of the Universe was under 18?
Which should be a huge number, by the way.
11%. Guys, listen to that number again. I don't want this to be lost on you. This is the biggest nail in it. Out of all the people, as few as they were, who went to go see Masters of the Universe, only 11%, according to Deadline, of the audience was 17 or younger. 11%. This franchise has no future. So there's two things I can tell you right now. Number one, you may have loved the couple of people who popped up in the post-credit scenes. Yeah, don't hold your breath. They ain't coming nothing. There is not going to be a sequel to this. There's just not. Secondly, I saw somebody in the live chat mention this too, but it's true. You know what? One of the other unfortunate repercussions of this? Any of y'all out there who is still holding out hope for a live action Thundercats movie?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, don't hold your breath. It ain't happening. Because Thundercats, honestly, I'd be more interested in a Thundercats movie than I was a He-Man movie. But Thundercats is going to suffer that exact same thing. It was great in its era, but it did not have the multi-generational span that something like a Mario Brothers did, right? So I really don't think I can't see anybody spending the money on making a live action Thundercats. I absolutely cannot see them making a sequel to this He-Man movie, not with this kind of financial disaster. And again, because they were not able to win over a new generation. And the fact that
that's the biggest.
Yeah. The fact that you had 11% were 17 or under, which that number should have been closer to 40. 11% not only means that did the marketing for this not appeal to anybody, but it just is an extra condemnation of the fact that over the past 30 years, He-Man has not stayed in the pop cultural consciousness other than those of us who were young in the early 80s and watched in the first place. It's just, you know, I mean, I don't know if there was a way it ever could have succeeded. I just don't know.
Well, what's interesting too, though, is that you think about the overall, like the sword and sorcery, fantastical fantasy genre has not gone anywhere. You know, Lord of the Rings in the early 2000s, and then you see things like the Warcraft movie didn't really work that much, but the idea of we're going to get the Zelda movie, sword and sorcery, fantasy has not gone anywhere. But it has to grow, and you have to give audiences the kind of fantasy that's popular now. And this is a kind of throwback. Like, you, as much as I love 1980s Flash Gordon, and there's a lot of people that love it, you can't make Flash Gordon that way today. You have to figure out, how do you make a post-millennial, Gen Z, post-meme culture Flash Gordon and make it work? And that's a hard thing to do. And we're seeing in theaters right now, you know, the Backrooms mythology belongs to the younger generation. You go to that theater, I've been there now 2 weeks and seen people are still flocking to see Obsession and Backrooms. And Backrooms is a mythology that belongs to 2019 and after. He-Man is a mythology, like you said, that belongs to people from 45 years ago. And unless you have a reason to bring that mythology forward and make it pertinent to modern audiences, it has nowhere to go.
You know, somebody brought up in the live chat saying, well, does this mean that the Highlander reboot is going to be... Here's the difference. The fact that only 11% of the audience was 17 or younger showed that they were not able to capture a new generation with this. All the marketing of Masters of the Universe felt like it was relying heavily on, hey guys, it's that cartoon you used to love. The hope, because Highlander could crash and burn too. It looks awesome, by the way. The stuff they showed us at CinemaCon looked real good. but it could absolutely fall on its face. The difference is when they start marketing Highlander, it's not going to be, hey guys, remember the old Sean Connery Highlander movie? They're going to market it as its own thing to a new audience, like any other new original movie, and try to capture the audience. Masters of the Universe clearly failed to do that. Hopefully Highlander will be successful in doing that. Not promoting itself as the remake of the old, Christopher Lambert film, but rather as, look at this kick-ass movie called Highlander.
Right.
And hopefully they're going to be able to accomplish that. That's going to be the deciding factor. So,
but also the premise of Highlander.
It's timeless.
It's timeless.
Timeless.
Yeah.
And it's so funny too, because there are things I liked about this movie. Like, he's not in it enough. I loved Battle Cat. Especially in the third act of the film. Jared Leto's Skeletor was probably the best part of the movie. And I'm not going to give, for those of you who didn't see it, there's this little sequence that on paper should have been beyond cringy. But it's Skeletor and Office Space. There's a whole sequence of Skeletor and Office Space, basically, that on paper, if I read the script, I would have gone, you can't shoot this. But I thought was really good in the movie.
No, I thought there was a lot to love about this movie. It just belonged to a different time. Not today.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But the end of the day, nobody cared about going to see Masters of the Universe. And kind of hoping that the marketing campaign could have done otherwise. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Masters of the Universe opened under $30 million. It needs around the 400, a little north of the 400 million mark to break even. And clearly, I don't know if it's going to get halfway there. Whatever you guys think about all this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. And all right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys. There's like 4,000 of you guys in the live chat right now. It's been awesome and fun reading along with your live chats as you guys have been talking with each other and bringing some pretty funny stuff. Thank you guys so much for being there and being a part of this. Of course, thanks to our technical director, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys later.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
He-Man's going to be a big cult movie in 20 years, though.
I hope you're right. I don't think you're right, but I hope you're right. And most importantly, guys, big thanks to all of you. Don't forget to come on back and join us again for tomorrow's installment of the show. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.